Well, it's been quite a morning. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is taking shots at President Trump in a rather personal way. This is over the newly implemented 25% tariffs that went into effect. Now, a short time ago, watch this closely, Trudeau had a direct message. He even called the president Donald.
I want to speak directly to one specific American, Donald. In the over 8 years you and I have worked together, we've done big things. We signed a historic deal that has created record jobs and growth in both of our countries. We've done big things together on the world stage, as Canada and the US have done together for decades, for generations. And now we should be working together to ensure even greater prosperity for North Americans in a very uncertain and challenging world. Now, it's not in my habit to agree with the Wall Street Journal, but Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do. We two friends fighting is exactly what our opponents around the world want to see.
Now, here's what makes this interesting. The comments you just heard come about 72 hours plus after another foreign leader tried the same strategy, picking a fight with President Trump, the commander-in-chief, the leader of the free world. We saw Zelensky of Ukraine take on the same kind of confrontational attitude. And interestingly, this same hour, as one leader stood up to pick a fight, another backed down. Zelensky posted this. Check this out. He said, "I would like to reiterate Ukraine's commitment to peace. None of us want an endless war. Ukraine's ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer." This is the interesting part. Our meeting in Washington at the White House on Friday did not go the way it was supposed to be. It is regrettable that it happened this way. It is time to make things right. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany here with my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Emily Compagno. Also joining us, Sandra Smith, co-anchor of America Reports, and Bill Hemmer, co-anchor of America's Newsroom. Bill, I was watching you live when that Zelensky statement came in, and none of us knew that then the next hour during Harris's show, we'd have another leader step up.
Yeah, I think a lot's moving on right now. I think we can say that. Also in the past hour, it crossed on the wires that Putin says that he will be the mediator between the United States and Iran.
On Fiverr, you can find the perfect freelancer for your digital marketing.
Lots moving on right now. I think we can say that. Also in the past hour, it crossed on the wires that Putin says that he will be the mediator between the United States and Iran. Okay, so now, listen, the left is already jumping on that, saying, you know, Trump's sucking up to Putin again. Keep your powder dry, I would say. With regard to the tariffs, I think there's a number of things we can talk about. The markets are getting hammered. They are down yet again today. I think the question is, how far do you push it? Scott Bessent, in the last 24 hours, said there will be a transition. He was referring to the markets being down and some tough sledding for a while. Peter Navarro was on our program earlier today. He was talking about the fentanyl in the United States. They're really trying to crack down on that. And the immigration as well. You know, the southern border, we can talk about it a little bit here. How much it has closed up in the past 4 weeks. I mean, it was like flipping a switch. And I do believe that the Mexican president is helping us on that as well. So there's a lot happening. There's a lot going on. I think with regard to Zelensky, one of the interesting words that he used in that statement, as was translated in English, was regrettable. Now, what the Trump folks have said that you got to apologize. And I don't know if he's going to get to that or not. Maybe. But during Brett's interview at 6 o'clock on Friday, remember Zelensky was in the Oval Office and he's going at it with Trump and Vance with no translator. And when he appeared with Brett at 6 o'clock, he had a translator sitting off the side. Didn't use him a lot, but when Brett asked him, "Do you regret?" he deferred to his translator and said, "Regret, what does that mean?" Blah, blah. And the translation came back. It was just an interesting choice of words. Does Zelensky, for the purpose of this conversation, get to the A word, which is apology? And if he does, then maybe all this stuff is right back on track. By the way, like co-anchor Dana predicted yesterday, that Trump will surprise the world tonight and come out and say that he has a handshake deal with Zelensky. If that is true, that is the major headline that we're all talking about tomorrow morning.
I think it happens, too. I think he got close to that apology by the statement that you read, that at the end of that post, it is regrettable.
It is.
Like, I think he's getting there. I don't know if we will necessarily hear it publicly, but I do think he's getting there with the apology.
I think he's getting there, too. And, you know, Harris, as I was watching Trudeau during your hour, what came to mind is a specific line that Trudeau said. He actually said, the beginning of his remarks, they've chosen to harm American national security. And my radars went off. It was almost like a dire prediction for what will happen to Americans. And then when you watch the Zelensky meeting, and I butted these two thoughts together, I want you guys to listen to this. The moment that set Trump off, it was Vance, it was Zelensky back and forth, but Trump dove in when Zelensky talked about dangers to the American public. Very similar to Trudeau today. Listen to this.
During the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
First and foremost, as we reflect on the impacts on Canadian workers and Canadian jobs and businesses, is that, first of all, there will be similar impacts on Americans losing their jobs, American families paying more for basic goods that they rely on at a time where times are tight everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty similar threats to Americans.
Well, look, I think with regard to Justin Trudeau, because at the end of this month starts the replacement process for him. And I think for him, it's has nothing to lose type of scenario. Although the Canadian people have something to lose. I don't think he's acting on their behalf with this sort of thing. Like, you know, you're taunting somebody. You're saying, Donald, you're showing all Americans disrespect for our top leader, our commander in chief. I don't even know where we're going right now. But if that's the basis of their friendship, why does he even think that we would want to rethink the tariffs, which are going to hurt them? It's already happening. Our Dow's getting hit a little bit today, but they're going to feel the pain. The other thing I would say about the scenario with him is that, you know, these two people are not the same. He's trying to equate himself to the power of a popular new president in the United States. He's on his way out. And he never had that popularity the way that Donald Trump does now. So it's kind of a weird political dance. What does he want? Does he want to renegotiate? And if his border wasn't as much a mess as it has proven to be with fentanyl, then why did what did he say? He's had to put money into Canada's security to knit them together with local law enforcement on the ground because they couldn't secure the border. I'm like, okay, well, then there you go. It worked.
Yeah. No, and you mentioned the popularity. I mean, a September Ipsos poll showed Justin Trudeau with 33% approval. Trump is majority support in several polls that have come out. There's also another moment where Trudeau speculated on Trump's motive with the tariffs. Watch.
What he wants is to see a total collapse of the Canadian economy, because that'll make it easier to annex us, is the second half of his thought. Now, first of all, that's never going to happen. We will never be the 51st state. But yeah, he can do damage to the Canadian economy, and he's started this morning. But he is rapidly going to find out, as American families are going to find out, that that's going to hurt people on both sides of the border.
Sandra, the problem with the Trudeau logic there is tariffs have been an arsenal in Trump's toolkit for years, long before the 51st state jargon came about. He's threatened tariffs against Mexico, against the EU, and against Russia. I don't think he's threatening or trying to use tariffs to take over Russia, the EU, and Mexico.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody that watched that, as we all watched it live happen together, saw somebody who is approaching this discussion respectfully. I think we saw this with Zelensky in the Oval Office, and you watch that and you don't think that this is a guy who's coming in, you know, in a strong way to debate and negotiate with President Trump. That being said, he's talking about the tariffs, he's talking about prices going up and economic pain. I had a conversation with our good friend Larry Kudlow last night on his show about the speed by which President Trump is addressing these tariffs. And I do think we have to listen to businesses in this country right now. Like 100%. The CEO of Target just this morning said, look, you know, we're going to try to protect the consumer as much as we can, but prices will go up. Best Buy CEO just came out and said, majority of our goods come from China and Mexico. Our prices are going to go up. This is a president who promised he was going to tackle the affordability crisis. So we're going to have to watch that very carefully. I print out the sheet from our brain room every single day. I look at it. Consumer confidence has taken a 13% hit since Election Day. We need to note that. People are going to be watching these prices. Housing prices have not come down. In fact, they've gone up 13%. New home medium sales price. This is all part of that affordability crisis that didn't start under this administration, to be clear. We saw this happening over the past 4+ years. But this administration will be judged on when and by how much those prices eventually come down. So keep that in mind when we watch this the tariffs battle play out. The market's not necessarily getting hammered. I mean, they're actually pretty even-keeled in response to a lot of uncertainty. They're still up 3%. Our American stock market since Election Day has not changed since Inauguration Day. But they're in a wait-and-see mode. Right now, this is a 1.5% drop in the Dow. There's a lot of uncertainty out there. There's a lot of, global uncertainty with what happens next with Ukraine and Zelensky, a lot of uncertainty surrounding these tariffs. And we want that business-friendly, certain environment. And right now, we're going to watch what's next. And tonight's a big part of that.
It is. And, adding to that uncertainty, Emily, you have the Ontario mayor who's threatening to cut off electricity, which would, in fact, affect some Americans. It seems like a pretty dire threat. You see it there.
I mean, that threat to me just indicates that a lot of them are, as Vice President J.D. Vance said to President Zelensky, litigating this in front of the media. But the reality is, to your point, that when Americans feel, or if Americans feel, when Canadians, if and when they start to feel the effects of the tariffs, that is when we'll look forward to Trudeau stepping up and acquiescing. And I just have to point out, and you know better than I, but crude oil obviously is the biggest export from Canada. Ours to them is passenger vehicles and also buses, special purpose trucks. And in the top 5 of both in that interplay are those industrial vehicles and the like. And our crude oil to them is number 6. So I think as we go back and forth, 16% of our exports to them are only mirrored at 12% of them by us. So I don't know who's buying the Ford Mach-E, and I hope no one is anymore. But I think it will be interesting to see when average Americans feel it in their pocketbook. And I'll look forward to tonight, our president reassuring us that any pain is short-lived because there's a bigger plan that will be in our vested interest.
And he has said that is the case, so.
Yeah. Yep. And we look forward to Trudeau's next move. Zelensky certainly came fast. It was about 72 hours.